The bruiser archetype was common throughout the Moria region, but popped up most frequently in the heavenly city of Clethopolis. Despite the immaculate streets and glimmering signs, the majority of the populace lived suspended thousands of feet in the air, incarcerated in the Grace Gannet prison. To impress the angels of heaven, the governing body of the city imposed draconian laws to maintain a sterile, if hollow, appearance. Prisoners needed to adapt to life backed into a corner, inspiring them to hit harder in dire circumstances. Eventually, the wardens came to regret pushing them to their limits.
I love revenge. Mechanics in games. Rubber banding, whatever you want to call it. It's fun when you feel like you're against the ropes and then you come back swinging. As of the time of writing this though, there's no comeback mechanics in Dungeons & Dragons. So let's fix that, gamers.
Come here! What are you gonna do, bleed on me? I'm invincible!
Hey everyone, this Subclass and all of the other ones are available on my Patreon at the $5 tier. I know this kinda interrupts the video, but I still have people asking where they can find the text versions of these subclasses, and I put this in every video, so that's where it is. Now let's start the video. Fighter is most often described as a vanilla class, and I think that's accurate, but not in a bad way. Vanilla is the perfect flavor to build a sundae because you can add a bunch of other flavors on top of it. Ability score improvements aren't unique to Fighter, but they get 2 more than any other class in the game, with the exception of Rogue, and they still get 1 more than Rogue. So if you want to customize your character with a multitude of feats, Fighter is the best class to go with. Extra attack is also not exclusive to Fighter, but they get more than other classes. At the 11th level, they get a 3rd attack per round, and their capstone is 4 attacks per round. You compare that with their other ability, Action Surge, which lets you make another action in 1 turn once per short rest, to do 8 attacks in a single round. At level 20, but that's 6 attacks in a round at level 12, and that's not bad either. It's not complicated, but you can mix it with stuff like Sharpshooter and Great Weapon Master to deal an absolutely bonkers amount of damage in a single round. And you have extra ability scores to grab those feats as well. But damage isn't the only perk of plainness. Fighters also make pretty good tanks. They have access to the heaviest armor, they have a D10 hit die, and Indomitable to reroll saving throws a couple of times, depending on what level you are. That's every fighter ability that's not part of their subclasses. Subclasses range from Eldritch Knights, who aren't good at casting spells, champions that critical hit more, and Battle Masters, who make Reddit uncomfortable when their parents walk into the room.
I'm looking at porn.
We don't need to talk about that though. We're here to talk about the bruisers. In the dangerous lands of Moria, taking damage was almost an inevitability, but this wasn't an issue for the bruisers so much as it was inspiration to fire back. With Grace under pressure, bruisers gained an additional D4 of damage when they were below 3/4 of their HP total, and an additional D4 when they were below half their HP total, and an additional D4 when they were below 1/4 of their HP total. Those hit point totals are all rounded up, of course. Now, this was for all weapon attacks, which was how I was able to determine that the bruiser was a fighter archetype and not a barbarian one. That meant that their extra damage didn't just get applied to swords and mauls, but to unarmed attacks and ranged attacks as well. Hand crossbows, guns, and bare hands were very popular amongst the bruisers. Important to note, this damage was the result of extra tenacity and could not be brought on by the fighter attacking themselves. If a bruiser attempted to attack themselves with a weapon attack or a spell attack that didn't also hit another creature, they would lose all the benefits of Grace under pressure until they finished a short rest. Hey, I'm breaking character. This is Phil, not Tulok. Don't make my homebrew stuff icky, okay? And always include safety tools in your games, thanks. After an extended time enduring the cruelty of Moria, bruisers became virtually unflappable. At the 7th level, when these fighters were subjected to a saving throw, more often than not, they would just shrug it off. This let them add half their proficiency bonus to saving throws they weren't proficient with. Fireballs, charming effects, frightening effects, all of these were less of an issue because of the raw determination of a bruiser. Even death itself escaped them. If Shake It Off was added to a death saving throw and made the total roll above 20, the fighter would instantly stand up with 1 HP.
How are you not dead? I have no idea!
Fighters were already able to have great AC thanks to having access to the heaviest armor and shield proficiency, So being better at almost every saving throw made the bruisers some of the hardest things to take down in all of Moria. By the time they hit level 10, trying to cast a spell on a bruiser was an even worse idea, thanks to their spiteful strikes. When a creature subjected a bruiser to a saving throw and they succeeded, the bruiser was able to move up to their movement speed in the direction of the creature without provoking opportunity attacks and make one weapon attack against them with advantage.
I got you!
Nope.
Worth noting that their attack did not have to use a melee weapon. I found an inordinate amount of sketches of fighters jumping through the air, having 2 hand crossbows in their hand, with an explosion firing behind them. This paired very well with Shrug It Off, which gave them +2 to every saving throw at this point, and Indomitable to re-roll a failed saving throw once per long rest. While some bruisers survived purely out of spite, the vast majority of them were living for someone else. Friends, family members, lovers, pets. These bruisers lived to protect the creatures they cared about. At the 15th level, these gluttons for punishment were able to protect creatures standing within 5 feet of them when they would take damage, taking the damage for the creature instead. Knowing that they were saving a loved one helped them deal with it and gave them resistance to any type of damage they took in this way. Eventually, a bruiser became a walking pile of scarred tissue with nerves burned off long ago and a willpower that made them virtually unbreakable. At level 18, when a bruiser was below half its HP total, they would gain a number of temporary HP equal to 5 plus their constitution modifier. Now, because it was temporary HP and not actual factual HP, this wouldn't bring them out of their range of grace under pressure. Basically, it was just a refreshing pool of 10 temporary HP. Hopefully the fighter capped off their constitution at level 18. That's because fighters have a ton of ability score improvements, so you could cap off your constitution and a physical stat by level 12 and still have 3 more ability score improvements that you could use for any feat you like. Sharpshooter and Great Weapon Master would help you pump out more damage, or the Tough Feat for 40 extra HP, so you can feel safer using that Grace Under Pressure ability. Shrug It Off pairs really well with Indomitable, letting you re-roll saving throws knowing that you have a positive modifier to those saving throws. You could save your Indomitable uses for death saving throws as well to make sure that you're standing up with 1 HP, then popping your second win to get ready to go for another round, probably in the lowest damage threshold of Grace Under Pressure.
I will never die.
And that's how Bruiser mixes with Fighter, but Fighter mixes really well with the other classes because it's dang simple. Vanilla, baby. Starting off, Paladin. A 6th level dip into Paladin would let you add your Charisma modifier to all of your saving throws, in addition to the Shrug It Off bonus. And that would help you make Spiteful Strikes. Artificer could do a similar thing with Flash of Genius and a 7 level dip, though it's less often that you'd be able to use that. But if consistency is all you're after, dipping over to Bard would give you Jack of all trades to add half your proficiency bonus to any skill check you're not proficient with, so no matter what dice you're rolling, you're adding numbers to it. A 1 level dip to Monk would give you a consistent bonus action attack, very fast. Every attack you make gets to pop your Grace Under Pressure ability, so that would be a solid idea. If you go far enough into Monk, you would also get Evasion, which means that you would take no damage on a successful dex save, so you could stand inside a Dragon's Fire Breath, not take any damage, then walk up and punch him in the face. Rogues also get Evasion, and Uncanny Dodge would help you not die when you're hanging out at that low threshold. Also worth noting, Sneak Attack can pop once per turn, not once per round. So if you're using a Spiteful Strike, that Spiteful Strike can get sneak attack damage. Barbarians would get advantage on dexterity saving throws and rage to give you resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage when you're at the lower thresholds, as well as extra damage to strength-based attacks, so you could have extra damage. Any way you could grab the heroism spell would also be great. It's a slightly weaker version of your 18th level ability, and it's a 1st level spell. Temporary HP is good. Artillerist Artificer also would give you a way to give yourself a regular temporary HP at the end of every turn, and fighters generally don't have bonus action stuff they do other than like Second Wind, so using that bonus action to activate the Arcane Turret to give you temporary HP, you're not missing out on much. That also means the Spore Druid would be fully busted, but like, Spore Druid's busted on its own. That's not really on the Bruiser. Fighter is just a flexible class, and Bruiser is a flexible subclass. And this is a flexible transition to me telling you to please join my Patreon. At the $5 tier, you'll get access to this subclass and all the other ones I've worked on. If you can't support the Patreon, that's fine, I get it. Just like the video, subscribe for more, and leave me a nice comment. Nice comments help the algorithm even more.